Shout out to the sponsors of the podcast, monarchtoken.io, the complete crypto solution. Monarch Wallet is now available for Android, iOS, and desktop devices today. Do you want to learn how to mine crypto? Well, all you have to do is visit cryptomining.tools for profitable crypto mining information today. The Divi Project, that is diviproject.org, your one-click solution for staking and masternodes. Earn cryptocurrency using social media platforms like Somee.social, SOMEE.social, New Era Social Media. Get paid to write reviews, like reviews, comment on reviews. Visit bravocoin.com and get paid to review, available for Android and iOS devices, bravocoin.com. CoinFlip, the world's best Bitcoin ATM. Better service, better fees, better visit coinflip.tech today. Shout out to the sponsors of the podcast, monarchtoken.io, the complete crypto solution. Monarch Wallet is now available for Android, iOS, and desktop devices today. Do you want to learn how to mine crypto? Well, all you have to do is visit cryptomining.tools for profitable crypto mining information today. The Divi Project, that is diviproject.org, your one-click solution for staking and masternodes. Earn cryptocurrency using social media platforms like Somee.social, SOMEE.social, New Era Social Media. Get paid to write reviews, like reviews, comment on reviews. Visit bravocoin.com and get paid to review, available for Android and iOS devices, bravocoin.com. CoinFlip, the world's best Bitcoin ATM. Better service, better fees, better visit coinflip.tech today. Shout out. And we're live. Hey, how goes it? I am Ken Bozak, here to talk about Bitcoin and Bitcoin accessories, and today I have an interesting flipped fireside chat for you. I'm here with my bro Justin O'Connell of changeoutput.com. How goes it, bro?
It's going great, Ken. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm a big fan.
Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate you. So, basically, guys, if you're tuning in, Justin reached out and wanted to ask me some questions, and I figured we could do it live, and he's going to put together some content out of this on his own, and you can reach out and see that after he's done doing his thing. So, before you dive into...
I got into crypto in 2012. I started a company called Gold, Silver, Bitcoin. I helped launch also a company called Bitcoin ATM, and from there I began working in the communications industry, in the blockchain industry, and creating content and being a content marketer, while also kind of building my own brands as well. Big Bitcoin fan, but I'm also I'm no tribalist by any means. I think that there's a lot of really cool stuff going on. I'm working on a story right now about MakerDAO, which has been pretty fascinating.
Yo, MakerDAO has been crazy interesting, and what they're up to, and I see a lot of conversation from both sides of the fence on it. You know, the pro DAI and the anti MakerDAO guys, but it is a great. I think it's a great financial experiment what they're doing with the tech at hand.
Yeah, it's amazing that they've applied supply and demand in a decentralized system, and the way in which they're able to maintain the $1 peg, which they've done now for 2 years, I think is pretty cool. And also it fits a need that was long a pain point in the crypto industry. We heard for the entire first, 10 years of cryptocurrency that they were too volatile. And these stable coins really solved that issue. But of course, with Tether being held in a US dollar bank account, there was something to be desired there, and MakerDAO really, I think, took that extra step. And I know, so they released their stable coin on the US dollar. And what's fascinating is that the real vision they have is like collateral DAO. So next is going to be Chinese renminbi stable coin, euro after that. Or rather, actually, they think euro will come first, and then renminbi and other major Asian currencies will come after that.
A lot of the inspiration that this could do for the institutional economy, like the bankers and stuff, like the way that they could sort of look at this as free testing for them, right? Because this is something right up their alley. If they wanted to contribute in our new economy, this is pretty much what a bank's role would be, except, MakerDAO's kind of doing it.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I wrote a 10 articles on my Forbes.com/sites/Justin O'Connell contributor account. And I remember, I believe in 2015 that JP Morgan's Jamie Dimon said that Bitcoin was basically a fraud and that it would be closed down soon. And since all we've seen is increasing amounts of innovation. And MakerDAO, I think, is a really great example of that. And we've got a ton of token projects that were launched in the 2017, 2018 period. And a lot of them, I think, are really bleeding out right now.
Yep.
They have no product, they have no revenue, but MakerDAO is an exception, which I think is something that the Ethereum team should be quite proud of, because for all of the token projects that have been started that have zero product at this point, even a few years almost removed from the big ICO boom, MakerDAO has stood the test of time, and I think also created a product that makes sense and could also really bridge the gap with non-crypto world.
Right, and it's no surprise that the Ethereum Foundation isn't super supportive. They don't really support anything or anybody building on Ethereum right now. It's weird, like it's you don't even see like a tweet from Vitalik supporting like Crypto Kitties back when they were helping get Ethereum so much attention.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see where we go moving forward. Gavin Andresen actually tweeted recently. He was a lead engineer on Bitcoin. Satoshi gave him the keys to the castle, if you
Mm-hmm.
will, back when he left. Satoshi left after WikiLeaks started accepting Bitcoin for donations. I think that made Satoshi. Some people think that made Satoshi nervous. Gavin
And
Andresen,
Gavin went and had a meeting with like the CIA. That really
yeah,
is kind of what sent that seal and was like Satoshi was like peace.
yeah, I believe Gavin actually the last thing he told Satoshi was that he met with the CIA.
Yeah, that was all Satoshi needed to hear, and they were gone.
And Andresen tweeted earlier this week that his favorite projects last year in 2018 and 2019 were on Ethereum, and he anticipates that his favorite projects moving forward will be also on Ethereum.
Truth Raider HQ, my bro says, you mean Hal Finney after he died? Yeah, exactly, pretty much. I do personally believe Hal had the most claim to Satoshi Nakamoto than anybody that tries to claim, especially Craig fucking Wright.
Yeah, Hal Finney is like one of an inspiration, really. So I've started calling Hal Finney a co-creator of Bitcoin. Hal Finney actually helped refactor
Yeah,
PGP with Philip Zimmermann in the 90s for encrypted communications. And so Phil and Hal worked on the second version of PGP, and I believe Hal was very hands-on on the code there. Now, Hal didn't get so much credit for working on PGP because Phil was under so much pressure. I believe he was like almost being indicted for like arms exports because I guess via his technology, people who were exporting arms were communicating. And then fast forward to the start of Bitcoin, Hal Finney is the first person, perhaps in the world other than Satoshi, to start running Bitcoin.
yep.
And
Publicly, what about Dave Kleiman? Mentioned by Truth Raider HQ in the chat as well. Rest in peace to him, and hopefully, the family can start to see, the funds that they've won in their lawsuit against Craig Wright for stealing his money. But Dave and Hal are probably the closest ties to Satoshi we got.
yeah, that's interesting. I haven't dug too far into the Kleiman story, but I do see that it is there's a lot of interesting angles there, and it's something that I've looked into, but not for a few years now.
Yeah, well, the law's finally on the family side of the case. Just Craig keeps delaying the payments over and over again. I think he might even start. I think he started to say he was broke or something. I don't know what excuses
Lost
he
the
was.
keys.
Yeah, he's coming up with, but yeah, he doesn't have the money anymore to pay them back.
And it's like, so does the family think that they mined a bunch of Bitcoins, or do they think that Dave Kleiman is Satoshi Nakamoto? I guess
I
that's
don't
my
think they're claiming that he's Satoshi, but he rightfully had, early crypto that was, Bitcoin that was stolen from his computer. I think Craig came in and said, "Hey, I'm going to help you guys out," and then basically just took it.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, but with Hal Finney, I know a lot more about Hal Finney. A lot of interesting parallel stories with him. So he definitely. So I've been calling him a co-creator of Bitcoin because after he received the first ever Bitcoin transaction from Satoshi Nakamoto, he began recommending a bunch of bug fixes, and it was pretty hands on at that time. And up until his death, he was working on a lot of different projects for Bitcoin in particular, including, for instance, BC Flick was a project he was working on. He was interested in anonymity, and he also was interested in a less energy intensive, I guess, solution for cryptocurrency than at that point. But I've been saying, at least in the spirit of open source, Hal Finney, and I believe Hal Finney might have considered himself a co-creator of Bitcoin as well. If you think in a private corporation, there's multiple founders.
Yeah, they
One guy
wouldn't.
might
I don't think you, as a person, they probably wouldn't have used the word creator. Probably contributor. You know, the way the people that contributed to this weren't the mentality of those that claim something as their own, or it wouldn't have they wouldn't have contributed the way they did. I feel like co-creator is too strong of a term, but uh, maybe co-contributor might be more of a stance they may have taken.
have. Yeah, makes sense. I'm putting it out there as co-creator, and I welcome all pushback.
That claim, like you have York Molt claiming to be a Bitcoin co-founder, Craig Wright claiming to be Satoshi himself. A lot of random people out there trying to take that claim to fame. We even have who is it recently tried to like patent Bitcoin and trademark like the term Satoshi and stuff. It's starting to get real political.
Hmm. All I can aspire to is one day getting sued by Craig Wright. That's my big goal. That's
That's a goal. That's a real goal.
So Jorg Molt, like I was at Las Vegas crypto, what was it? CryptoCon, right? World CryptoCon, as well as Coin Agenda, and I actually spoke with Jorg, and good old Jorg handed me his card, and it said Bitcoin co-creator on it, with the C capitalized, and then of course you took him to task, which regardless of your tactics, which I think are perfectly fine and extremely entertaining, like we need people in the space that have the courage to call out people who are blatantly lying,
Thank you.
because like no one else is going to do it.
Yeah, that was the only reason I did it. I saw nobody else doing it, and a lot of people just letting it slide. And that's kind of the reason I did it the way I did it. Was just like, there's no way all you reputable people that are, looked up to in this space are just standing by silent. It's like, I've said this before as an analogy, but it's like watching somebody get mugged on a bus and there's three cops just watching it happen. Like, I snapped and I took on the mugger myself.
Yeah, I mean, there's no cops in crypto. It's just us. So, I mean, the SEC's got their hands full. They're not going to. The regulators are not going to go after somebody, and a lot of projects that are flying under the radar because they don't have the resources, or um, that it just doesn't register on their radar. And I'm not saying that the SEC should get involved in something like that, but I am saying that it is up to us as a decentralized open source community to put these people on blast. And if, I mean, I can only imagine how many people out there have been slighted by a project that keep their mouth shut. I think it's probably hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of people. But I encourage us to kind of speak out a little bit more about that. And I think that we're going to start seeing more of that moving forward here, especially as these token projects that come out without any underlying technology or business model get themselves into trouble through IEOs. They're doing IEOs now, whatever they can come up with. But so I'm curious. I have some questions for you, Ken. You've built an empire here on your YouTube channel and across all your social media. Like, what gave you the idea to do that?
It was a complete accident, really. Had no intention on like being an influencer or anything, but I started to do content creation or whatever because there wasn't any like like easy to follow like how to videos. It was all very nerdy, very technical. Even the simplest tasks like making a paper wallet was just like way too convoluted for like a normie to get it outside of somebody that was like technically inclined. And I'm like, I can make a paper wallet. I did it. I was like, but there's such an easier way to explain this. So like I was like, and after friends and people asking me after the first like 6 months to a year I've been into crypto and Bitcoin and looking into it, talking about it, asking me the same questions over and over again. I was just like, all right, fine. I'll make a simple little how to do a wallet, how to use a paper wallet, how to do this, and some of those videos actually got like hundreds of thousands of views, and like I was like, holy crap, like thank you. And from that, I ended up starting to reach out to people about the projects I was talking about, and see if they would do an interview with me, so I could just talk to them about the thing I was, using, like Exodus Wallet, Jax. Ryan X Charles came on the podcast. We talked about yours.org, and I got to interview Andreas and Charlie Lee and all these amazing people. And that kind of was before it was like a popular topic at the time. It's like 2016 when it was just starting to get somewhat popular, and they weren't like celebrities yet as much as they are now in this space. So it was really easy to get a hold of them. So I started doing interviews sort of to create a soapbox just so I could reach out to people I wanted to talk to, and I gave them a reason to want to talk to me as much as I had a reason to talk to them. So that's why I kept doing it, and the influence I think just came as like a side effect of content creation.
Yeah.
It comes after legacy. You have to have time in whatever community you're creating content in. You get reputation. You stay reputable, and with legacy and reputation begets influence. And I saw that as I was in this space longer, and the more of a public reputation I had in this space, going to hundreds of conferences, it all added up to equal something. My opinion now had value. My soapbox has value. I get sponsored now to do a podcast. I work with projects like Coinbound to get sponsors for things like brand awareness and marketing campaigns, and even just consulting projects on how to get like sort of like a community engagement program going, because a lot of projects don't know how to engage with a community outside of their own little ecosystem that they've built with their developers and their team and their beta users. So just being in this space for a period of time, and just being myself, and staying true to that kind of led me to where I'm at as like the quote unquote influencer.
You started in 2014.
2015, I started. Yeah.
That's still pretty early. This whole social media craze. I mean, what did YouTube start in 2006? When I was in 10 years ago, Facebook was still a college platform for college kids. Twitter was brand new. And here we are 10 years later, and the communications infrastructure of the entire planet has been totally transformed. In the past, in order to get in front of one of your audiences, you would have to
Yep.
pay a few major international corporations thousands upon thousands of dollars to get in front of your audience or an audience. And today, all you have to do is press stream on YouTube, and you can build an audience and speak with them directly, which I think is we having lived through it might not recognize how big of a transformation it is, but I expect that this is only going to further cement itself into our culture from 2020 to 2030 over the next
Yep.
decade. And like there, as Alex Jones says, there's truly an info war going on right now, and we're able to like literally partake in it. Whereas in
Yep.
the past, when you just turn on television, you couldn't get on television unless were able to go down to the studio and get on public access, which was far higher barrier to entry than our cell phones. Even you just walk down the street and put on your cell phone, and you can broadcast. You can broadcast to tens of thousands of people from your commute. Ken, think
Yep.
about how much power we all now have, which is quite exciting, I think.
And well, a lot of those major platforms only provide more power, I would say, to the end user or the independent content creator on the network, because as far as influence, I gotta say it with the quotes, because I don't really like to consider myself an influencer, because I don't really like aspire to influence anybody with my opinion.
You're a content creator.
Right, exactly. The difference between like a content creator and an influencer is the intention. Like I relate it to like firefighters. If I see a fire and I'm walking down the street, I'll put it out, but don't expect me to go into a burning building if one's on fire. Like, I'm not a firefighter. I just put out a fire. I create content, and if you were influenced by it, that's not the goal of it, but cool, you know. And there's ways to monetize that, and I think it's thanks to these mainstream platforms like Facebook and YouTube and Twitter not allowing the legacy advertisement companies for working with blockchain projects to promote and market on their platforms. You don't see many sponsored ads from blockchain projects anymore since the whole BitConnect YouTube fiasco when they got called in for the class action lawsuit. A lot of mainstream platforms saw that Google class action lawsuit and were like, we're not going to be doing any more blockchain ads. And that's when a lot of the companies had to go to the content creators who have followers on the platforms, and you get sponsored tweets that way rather than Twitter getting them directly. And Instagram has seen this influencer use case of a platform and is trying their best to take that away from them by hiding the likes and a lot of the engagement from public view. So if you're popular on Instagram, you get millions of likes on a photo. No one's going to see how many likes that photo got. So advertisers that work with influencers for brand awareness, they're not going to work with independent content creators as much as they are now going back to the legacy advertisement platforms.
I don't know if that's a winning strategy. I think that this might not be about a game of likes and comments. It might very well just be a game of kind of impressions. Then if it's a game of impressions, it's a game of quantity.
Yep.
And those content creators that put out the most amount of quantity and then listen to the market and learn what the audience wants are going to end up, I think, with the biggest audiences, with the biggest platforms, with the biggest impact, which I think is probably the main goal here, is to have as much of a positive impact as possible. And I think we're all able to like enter into our own bedrooms like with the click of a button. We're all like literally hanging out with each other 24/7 on Twitter, on Facebook,
Yep.
on Instagram, on TikTok now, on LinkedIn's a big one. Like, and so we're becoming immune as a culture to traditional sales strategies. So when project A says like, hey, we're the best project doing this stuff, buy our stuff, we're tuning that out. We want to know like, what value do you have to provide us beyond the product you're selling? And if we like what you have to offer outside of what you're selling, we might then check out what you're actually selling behind the scenes there. And I think that big companies are going to catch on to this very slow. The big companies in the crypto space, are catching on to it very slow. If you go to Coinbase's Twitter page, they tweet like once a day, and oftentimes it's kind of about what they're up to and what they're doing. They're not really like going out into the crypto Twitter and participating in those conversations.
Right.
Not to say that they're a huge company. Maybe they can't, maybe they feel like they cannot do that because of regulatory risk. But if they wanted to truly build their brand, which a lot of people aren't super enthused on, yesterday was Proof of Keys Day. They need to go and discuss with the crypto community, no matter how big or small a person is, about the topics that we're passionate about. And that
A
can be
lot of our
applied.
topics that we're passionate about, though, are conflict of interest for them. We're passionate about things that are anti their agenda, so they don't want to contribute or be involved in our community as much as an individual. They want that distance of corporate to individual contribution, right? They don't want that personal engagement level, right? Like I love Trilali. You see them in everybody's threads, talking to the community, engaging all the time, and like other blockchain companies, like even ones that aren't, like Cheap Air. They're not a blockchain. They're a travel agency that accepts crypto, but they engage in the crypto community threads all the time on crypto Twitter. It feels like they're one of us, but then we hold them to one of us standards, right? We instead of holding Coinbase to one of us standards, we hold them to an institutional standard. It's a little different. We give them leeway.
I don't think Coinbase keeping that distance is any better for their brand than engaging us and
Mm,
owning the fact that, I think that they actually have a good value proposition for certain users, like
yep.
older users that maybe don't feel comfortable holding onto their coins. But I don't think Coinbase benefits from removing themselves from the conversation any more than they would by going into the conversation, owning it, and like showing some personality.
We're
Brian
seeing
Armstrong
that
does
right
this.
now. We're seeing it right now. Did you, I mean, we talked about this right before we went live with how the Google App Store was basically forcing Coinbase Wallet to remove their browser 3.0 from the legacy Toshi app, right? Well, now they're going to the community and asking us for our support, and we're just like, wait, who are you?
I mean, yeah, exactly. I think that's a great example. And if in a more general, from a more general perspective, I think that the brands that are engaging on these platforms right now, it's LinkedIn first and foremost in our space. I think Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and perhaps moving forward, although less certainly TikTok.
TikTok never, dude. Fuck TikTok. In China and they're banned. TikTok's so awful, bro.
You think it's the CCP spying on everyone?
Dude, not even just that. It's just an awful platform. I hate it. How many times I've gotten in trouble and I only had the app a month? I've been like striked, banned, and yelled at so many times because like nothing's allowed. Like it's such a censored platform, and then to see all of us content creators for the crypto community going to TikTok is just like anti Bitcoin. It's so anti Bitcoin.
Okay, let's talk about TikTok. But first, I wanted to finish that. Let's say that you got Coinbase on LinkedIn and Twitter participating on a regular basis there. The brands that are doing that are the ones that are going to gain our trust. And they're going to have to do so in a way that isn't sales focused. It's got to be providing value to these communities. How is Coinbase providing value to crypto Twitter? That's and they need a company, a big company needs to really consider that. Like, how do we just provide value to those
Yeah,
communities
even if they're doing
outside?
their tech support through it, how many people reach out to Coinbase on Twitter with an issue and you just see it unreplied forever, like if ever replied to? It's sort of like makes you feel like when you look at these unresponded, public concerns that, why even go to that business? They clearly don't care about engaging with even the customer support in a public forum.
Mhm. Yep. I think yeah, you've summed it up. I think that now we can talk a little bit about TikTok and how it is censoring everyone. So now for me, TikTok is a window into this new phenomenon on the internet,
It's
which is
not
like
that new.
the video meme.
Right,
That
but Vine kicked all that off. We had Vine and Snapchat, but then
now
Snapchat became something else, and Instagram used to be Instagram, and now it's something else. And you know, uh,
yeah, yeah.
we've always been, for the past like 10 years, we've always been into this micro content.
Yeah, my perspective is that like these platforms, no matter how long they actually last, give us insight into how content is being created.
Right.
And Vine, if you were on Vine, regardless of what you think of TikTok, you feel at home in TikTok. And
It's true.
if TikTok gets banned or if TikTok fails, whatever comes next, you're going to feel at home there by having been on Vine or having been on TikTok or Snapchat.
Yeah, I didn't even know TikTok used to be Musically. Like I knew Musically, and then I never really it wasn't my cup of tea as far as content goes, so I never really engaged with it. Same way I never used like Tumblr or other really popular social platforms that have niche contributions to social media. And then Musically was bought by a Chinese company, turned into rebranded to TikTok. And I just going through the platform, it just everything feels fake, like all the like top feet, like all the it's just so fake, like nothing feels real. It's almost like scripted candid camera kind of content, and I don't enjoy that when you see these pranks or like these little quick videos that are all super scripted, even like the ones where you see somebody going up and giving like a homeless guy $100 or whatever. It's like that dude's clearly your friend, with a fresh haircut, like just with some old clothes on.
And I wonder, we hear all the time about how good engagement is on TikTok, but how can we audit that? How do we
Right,
know?
thank you. Yeah, I mean, how many of these? No offense to fucking all you Bitcoin influencers out there, but they all made TikToks and in a week had 20,000 followers. I know you bought them. That shit ain't real. You don't even have that many followers on Instagram or Twitter. How'd you do it on TikTok? Because TikTok's so new, people are gamifying the engagement of it, so it's hard to see what really is quality engagement or what's bought bots.
Have you been active on Instagram?
I'm on there. I've been on Instagram for years. I probably have like 5,000 followers, but I follow a lot more people because I actually go to Instagram, and how I use Instagram is more to get content than give. It's like Twitter and Facebook, I give more than I take. But Instagram, I like to open and I follow specific things like traveling, food, like this, picture stuff, and friends, stuff like more of a closer network. But I use it.
So I've used it on crypto Twitter for probably about a year and a half now, and I really saw over this last year my reach to basically go to nothing. I would post something at a conference, say consensus, and I would get 50 to 100 likes. And now I'm down to like one or two, which is interesting. Something to also to consider with these platforms.
I've seen that with YouTube, 100%. Like right now, I have 11,000 subscribers on YouTube. I'd be surprised if we had 10 live stream viewers on YouTube, and I know I'd probably have double the net on Twitter, and I have half the follow. Like it's, yeah, the platforms definitely like to shadow ban topics of discussion.
Well, another reason why I think important to kind of like use as many different platforms as possible to kind of hedge against that sort of shadow banning or them just limiting the reach in order to encourage us to pay them for advertising dollars. So tell me about like how you've seen your viewership. Let's not talk about that. I don't want to get you in any trouble with YouTube, but
Oh, fuck YouTube, man. If they like you mentioned the whole like have multiple platforms. Like right now, we're live streaming on 9 different platforms because I for the past 2 to 3 years I've been telling all of my favorite content creators in crypto that Twitter or YouTube and Facebook, all these platforms are eventually going to start to shadow ban or censor the community. And YouTube did a test of it and called it an accident, but it was definitely a flex of a test. It was not an accident. It was a demonstration of YouTube martial law, what they did to the content creators in crypto on their platform. So I'm expecting YouTube to just delete my channel at any day.
so before we get to like how you're preparing for that, I'm kind of curious. You started in 2015. You saw that there was demand for your entertainment, your information, and your educational videos. How did that evolve? And how did you grow your community? For anybody that maybe is sitting at home, hemming and hawing over putting themselves out there and going on record. Like I think we all need to be on record. If you've seen that movie, The Truman Show with Jim Carrey, where he's being watched and broadcast all the time, I think we're going to all live in a world like that. Except the main difference is that we're going to be broadcasting ourselves 24/7.
Facts.
So I'm curious. Tell me about kind of your experience starting and how it really picked up and what you learned along that way.
Oh yeah. So before I even did anything as far as my own content creation went, I looked at the people that were already creating the content in the community that I was, starting to get involved in. I started with, watching and contributing with Omar Bam, Crypto's News, and just being in, the YouTube live stream chats and going to Twitter and engaging in the threads of, really controversial or just intellectual, tweets and getting involved in the conversations, and I think it was because I don't have like a unrecognizable like username. My name Ken Bozak is my username, and it always has been since like my first username for AOL AIM Instant Messenger to PlayStation or Xbox Live. Everywhere I use my name. So on YouTube chats, I'm Ken Bozak. Twitter, the threads, I'm Ken Bozak. Like so, it was like people would always see I guess my name in a lot of the prominent content creators live streams or in their threads. So by the time I started creating my own content, people already were aware that consumed content who I was because I was a consumer of content with them. So I went from consumer to creator, and I feel like that's a lot of people have the opportunity to do that. When if you're a recognized consumer of content within a community, you can use that to start to create your own content and get that following as well with camaraderie. And that's sort of kind of what happened. Like I didn't really go to any Twitter paid follower sites. I got almost 18,000 followers on Twitter through just general, engagement. I do a couple giveaways, and every once in a while I'll ask people to follow me to enter the giveaway, but I've started to do less of that recently because I don't want only people following me that are looking for handouts or giveaways. I want to give back to people that are already following me in general. So I've started to do less of like the incentivized follow me tweets. But if you're already following me, randomly I do a giveaway, and you'll see it because you're following me.
What are some of the like strategies that you've used that you think have really helped you like connect with your audience, I think, and provide them value?
Uh, I I would say like following people back. A lot of content creators in the space don't follow their followers or engage with their community, and that's something I sort of make sure I try to do, like intentionally, stay like aware of. If I see somebody comment on one of my tweets, I go to click on their profile, I go to one of their most recent tweets, and I try to like it or comment. If I have something, I don't try to just spam, like, with like a generic bot reply. But if I do go to their Twitter page. I do see what they're, or if they're commenting on my YouTube and they have a YouTube channel, I'll go subscribe if they're a subscriber of mine. I'll check out their content and I'll engage back. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things I've done without really knowing or like having that agenda. Like, I'm not only engaging to get that back, but that's been a thing that I've done that I've seen actually give back a lot by giving back too. So you see people engaging with you, take the time to go engage with them back. If they're commenting on your posts, go comment on theirs. And I think that means a lot to people that follow people. And you see a lot of these Twitter profiles that have like 20,000 followers and they only follow 100 people. That's kind of rude, how I see it.
Yeah, I understand. It's engaging with your audience. Like, you're so lucky. Like, every time somebody comments on a post of mine, like, I feel so lucky that like somebody took time to post there. I used to not think this way, and so I have to communicate with them. That's like part of the future, I think. And I see social media as like a high school party, and there's a couple things there. Like, you don't want to be a wallflower at a high school party, generally speaking, and you also don't only want to talk about yourself. You want to go and engage people and learn about what they're interested in, and engage with them halfway. And that's kind of an interesting thing with social media these days, is that we can really learn about what people are interested in beyond crypto, or what their personal lives are like, if they're broadcasting that at all, and connect with them on those deeper levels. And not only should we do that as content creators, but also brands bringing it back to Coinbase should be doing that. Like, they're not replying on their support stuff. It's because they don't get it. They don't understand the new world that we're living in quite yet.
Yeah, and I think that leads to from macro influence to micro influence. It's not so much about how big the brand is, right? It's the small things that they do that matters now.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
I mean, if even if a big brand like that did start to engage with the community, it would mean a lot. But it would have meant a lot that they were part of the community the whole time. And it's always felt like, going back to Coinbase, but projects like them and companies like them specifically, never felt like they were part of our community. They feel like they're a fiat supporter that are just, I would say, like currency appropriating us, just using our love and our passion for our currency to make more fiat for themselves.
If your goal is to grow and build a business over the long haul, then you absolutely have to be active on social media, these 5 to 7 platforms. You benefit because you're able to get in front of an audience for less expensive than was historically possible. I heard recently that New York Times, a full page ad right now, still costs 46K, which is more than it cost before social media was around. So the price of a full page ad on New York Times has gone up, while the eyeballs on that have decreased.
But the quality of the eyeballs has increased, and I would have to admit to that, right? We see the quality of the physical readers of these illustrations go up in quality. It is a more of an elite stature of content consumption to see like that. So I see your point, but I also see their point as well. Like, the only eyes that are reading our paper, they may be slim, but they are eyes that are interested directly in what you're talking about. So, it's and I don't think that a lot of companies are advertising the legacy route anymore. You even see like CNN and mainstream media, news are spending more time on their YouTube videos than they do on actual live streamed aired media. They'll have an hour of a live stream news segment, but then you'll see 3 hours worth of small content taken from that, put on all the different platforms. So even they're doing this now.
What's your favorite platforms that you're using right now for social media?
Twitter, really. I spend most of my time on Twitter. I'm starting to spend more time on the decentralized platforms, but that's sort of a small echo chamber right now. It's all already people that are interested in crypto, this, that, and the other. So you're not really on ramping as many people. You're already speaking to people that have already listened to what you're probably about to say. I do go to Facebook to sort of shake up Facebook, because it is, you don't hear crypto Facebook as much as you'll hear crypto Twitter. So I have about 5,000, which is like the max amount of people that can add you as a friend on Facebook. And I've had that before I even got into Bitcoin. Really, I've had like 5,000 Facebook friends just from like traveling a lot from different high schools. I was involved in different communities before Bitcoin, like cell phone repair or piracy. A lot of the underground, like deep web like communities. So I've always had a decent amount of followers on Facebook, but they're still not like, it's probably 10% of people I know in Bitcoin as friends on Facebook. The 90% are outside of the echo. So when I go and talk about Bitcoin or anything crypto related on Facebook, I get a lot of the normie replies or the outside of the bubble replies. And I posted yesterday proof of keys, and somebody commented with a photo of their actual like house keys in their hand, and it's like, I don't get what you're talking about, but here's my keys. And I was like, that is exactly why I'm here on Facebook, because like you guys need the information the most. So Twitter is engaging with the community, but Facebook's kind of trying to grow the community bigger for me. And then I go to the decentralized or newer platforms to engage with the like-minded individuals specifically. So like on float.app, somi.social, there's I have like 10 of them on my phone right now. Like, I feel like I'm only saying a few. Library, Uptrend, Trench, Party Go, Bravo, FOMO Hunt. All these different platforms that have, basically a crypto-centric user base. So my sponsors that are crypto projects, I can go and say, hey, I have a decent following on these platforms. They're pretty much all interested in crypto already. So when I talk about your project, I don't have to educate people about what you're doing. I can just let them know what you're doing, and they can go from there. So there's a difference of how I could use, like, I can't really use my Facebook following, even though I have a decent amount of followers, to help with my sponsors' promotion or community engagement, because that's not the community that will engage with that content.
Which decentralized platforms are you seeing the most engagement and activity on, or do you just?
Outside of Steam, float.app, but they're not a decentralized platform, so to speak. They're just utilizing Bitcoin in a very interesting way. Somi.social, and right now Trench, I think it's called TWETCH, Twitch, whatever. It's like, I think it's like a Bitcoin SV or Bitcoin. I don't remember which version of Bitcoin it uses, but it's a social media platform that you have to like pay a few satoshis to actually post something, pay a few satoshis to like something. And I think that's pretty interesting, like sort of like how Steam it was, where it costs to engage. So there technically is no spam because you're paying to produce, so it's not spam anymore. It's a paid use. Maybe you're not using it well when you pay for it because you're posting a cat video that just cost you 10 cents, but it's not spam anymore. I think the decentralized platforms outside of the centralized ones, Steam it probably has the best bet for going mainstream. And then there's the streaming ones, like DLive. DLive is doing amazing things with BitTorrent now. They even got YouTube's biggest content creators, PewDiePie, to stream live on their platform with unique content. Besides DLive, there's like DTube and BitTube, a lot of these streaming services outside of just like social media for like what Twitter is. So there's a lot of them. I probably have, I would say, around 30 different social media accounts. Like on my phone here, I probably have like 20 just like in this one folder.
How's your work on Steemit going? What do you like about it? What don't you like about Steemit?
I use Steemit more so for Vim.tv now. So we're live streaming on 9 platforms. Vim.tv is one of the 9 platforms I use. And when I'm live streaming on Vim.tv, they automatically post a post onto the Steemit blockchain. So if you're following me on Steemit, you'll see a post every time I go live that if you like, I can earn Steam. And if you click on it, you can watch the live stream via Vim. So I've been doing that. What else? I use PartyGo and Somi.social, I guess, right? So like they're different applications kind of like built with Steam. They have their own currencies, but they also you can post to Steam from there. So if I'm on somi.social and I post something, I can earn somi, and it also posts to Steam it. So I get like a 2-for-1 post. Um, I sort of use that, I guess, more than I use Steam it directly. It used to be for writing articles and blogs, but I don't really do that as much. I do more podcasting and streaming. So I use it so like for that alone. I use Steam it for keeping people like updated with my Vim.tv live streams, and then I'll post on Steam it, but only through Somi.social or Partico.
Have you seen the decentralized social game like evolve since Steam was released?
Oof. I mean, yeah. There's been a lot of evolution, honestly. Even Steam is still evolving. They just started, out with their media tokens. Way for you and me and content creators to create their own media tokens and create utility behind them, which is really interesting. Uh, Again, DLive used to be on Steam, and then they did their own thing with their Lino blockchain. I think Steam inspired a lot. It was sort of like the MySpace of social media for decentralized platforms. It wasn't perfect. It's still not perfect. It has the opportunity to change, but I think that a lot of the things that came from its inspiration have an opportunity as well.
What opportunity do you think these platforms have for engaging like non-crypto mainstream audiences? Like one barrier to entry for Steemit, I think, is that people lose their passwords and
I've done
Steemit,
it.
yeah. So
Sucks.
then, yeah, it's like now I think that there are like what we have to like hard fork. Somebody loses their password, we got to like do a hard fork and roll back the Steemit blockchain.
No, I mean maybe. I guess it would depend on how much money they lost and who they were. But we've seen these platforms utilized even by legacy media content creators when they've found their hardships of censorship and shit. Like Ben Swan, he started utilizing these blockchain platforms immediately when he had his issues. Dash was sponsoring him, and Ben Swan had his own like thing going on with different platforms too. And I think that that's a potential incentive. We'll see a lot of journalists and content creators that work for mainstream networks that realize like, I don't have to really go to work when I'm at home. I can do this from home. I'm an anchor, so I can just do that. YouTube done. Post it on Steam. It earn crypto. So I think we could see more of a less of a monopoly and more of an independent journalism era occur again. We had journalistic integrity for a while, and then corporations came in and bought it up and just suffocated the integrity with money. And a lot of journalists will swallow their pride to pay their rent, which a lot of people do. I mean, dude, I've shoveled horseshit for a living to pay my rent. Like people do shitty jobs to pay their rent. The difference now is there wasn't any options. There wasn't any alternatives. These media platforms had a monopoly on information, and now we see YouTube and Facebook, even the essentially like Steam it. You can reach more people on your own than you can with a network now. Easier, more convenient, and have more of a powerful impact. So imagine if we this has happened with Larry King leaving network television to do his own thing. I think a lot of people are going to be inspired by moves and acts like that, and you know, imagine if these platforms were around when Jay Leno and David Letterman and Conan O'Brien were all having their arguments. Conan would have just started his own fucking YouTube show, just called it a day. So now that these alternatives are here and they are being utilized, I think it's just a time of awareness. A lot of legacy content creators aren't aware of these platforms. They don't realize, like, I could write an article for the Wall Street Journal and yeah, they might pay me, but also I could write an article and put it on Steam it and I could get paid forever. So I mean, it's totally a missed information platform issue. Like, these platforms don't market to their end users that exist in the legacy industries. You don't see Steam it marketing with that $47,000 full page Wall Street Journal. They should, because it doesn't matter who's reading it. It's all the other journalists that write for the Wall Street Journal that would see that and then go to the next platform. So I think we're waiting for those people to see these alternatives, these options, and then them to seize them.
I think we see that all over in every industry that the journalism funding mechanism is broken. We've seen over the last year or two all of the mainstream newspapers go to behind a paywall, on the internet, at least subscription only. And in the crypto space, this has kind of played itself out where since the beginning, when I started first writing in the space, I wrote starting with probably I guess CCN, and journalists were getting paid like anywhere between $10 to $25, and in some cases they're still getting paid that. The best paid journalists in the space, I believe, are getting paid like maybe $150 per article, but they don't have regular work in most cases. They've got to dig up a story, write the story, and then pitch it to an editor who can then either accept or reject it. And this lack of funding in crypto journalism, I think, led to a environment in which payola was able to flourish. We saw that really play itself out during the 2017 ICO craze.
Mm-hmm.
There was, I think, a lot of payola going on at that time, and even till today across a lot of these publications, and especially with the journalists. I know today that as a Forbes.com contributor, I've heard all sorts of rumors, and I get offered all the time like thousands of dollars to write articles. But I learned that really for journalists these days, writing, especially in the crypto space, it's really a mechanism by which to build a brand. It's not a mechanism by which to get paid, which is just the state of journalism today in crypto in particular, which I think
What
does create an opportunity for these alternative platforms like Steemit.
What are your thoughts on like paywalled content and information? Because I'm semi a fan of it. I almost find myself liking the concept of pay per chapter or pay per line content or media. A lot of the times people put a lot of time and effort into the content, and a lot of times they don't. It shows, and you could usually tell within the first paragraph, if something's going to be worth finishing. And I liked yours.org. I mentioned Ryan X. Charles earlier on the podcast. When I was talking to him about yours.org, I really genuinely liked the concept of saying, hey, it's going to cost you 10 cents to read this article, or it could cost you a penny a chapter, and there's 10 chapters, something to that effect. And I think that's an interesting way to monetize your content, but also I think that it could disincentivize content creation at the same time, right? Like, you put something out there and people don't pay you to read it. Do you start to put less time into it and charge less, or you put more time into it and charge more?
I just switched. I stopped thinking about money in terms of writing journalistic stuff and started thinking about building a brand. And that really kind of inspired me to really try my best to write the best content possible, knowing that I probably wasn't going to get paid for it. One of the interesting, I think, companies I've been keeping an eye on over the last year is the Athletic.com. The Athletic.com is a subscription only sports website, and they call themselves like the new standard for sports journalism. They went across different sports and hired the best known sports writers in the game. And if you want to read about baseball, in depth baseball, for instance, today you have to go to theathletic.com, and it's all behind a paywall. Um, how that experiment plays out, they did raise VC funds in order to execute upon that. How that plays out is yet to be seen. I've spoke with Richard Titus, the CEO of Transform Group, who worked at BBC and the Daily Mail in the early 2000s, late 90s, and he really doesn't like the subscription model. He thinks that it's a bad user experience. He
Right.
he actually was a proponent of a public model. So like
But wouldn't I think that it is a bad user experience with the financial systems that we have today, but with microtransactions, things like smart contracts, opening up an article in a wallet, and it's funded, and as you read, the pennies or micro pennies come out of your wallet as you're reading. I think the user experience will get better, but right now, yeah, the user experience sucks, but it doesn't mean that the ideology behind it does.
no, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that as this evolves, that it's going to be one click, and you're even today you probably have your debit card uploaded to your Chrome browser, and with a couple clicks have access to the article.
Yeah,
And then
people do
as
this
my
with applications all the time. You know how difficult it used to be to buy an app when you had to keep putting in your card? Now you could have the App Store remember your card, and people started buying apps all the time, spending more money than they realize most of the time.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting observation. I think that you could see that moving forward being like what the case is. You can pay article by article. Let's say like the New York Times, you keep your credit card on file with them, and if you want to read an article, you just click it and it charges you automatically and gives you access. That could be interesting. Mr. Titus was a proponent of the public model, so things like BBC, NPR. He was arguing that those allow individuals from different perspectives in order to have a forum. But I think it's the user experience today isn't that great anyway because you've got pop-up ads. You
Yeah.
on some of these websites I go to every single time I want to read an article, there's an ad that starts at the top of the page or
Or in the
like
middle, man. It's like it totally ruins the article because I'm in the middle of reading your freaking amazing content, and then there's an ad for something that breaks the paragraph in half, and I don't even realize I'm reading an ad until I'm like, oh, this has nothing to do with what I was just reading.
yeah, I think that things are going to evolve towards people wanting a very clean, minimalistic page where all there is the text. It's almost like reading a book online. That's what you get at the Athletic once you pay, because I subscribe to the Athletic in order to kind of keep an eye on what they were doing.
Now, can
And
you sublet that? Can you monetize your subscription if you don't want to read next month's, or can you like sublet or timeshare these? Because I feel like moving forward, you will be able to do a lot of that with the paid walled content. If I have a subscription to, your blog, and for some reason I'm not a fan of you or whatever anymore, I could sell that subscription or gift that subscription with here's the keys to my subscription. But you can't
yeah,
do that right now if you get a year membership to the Wall Street Journal and you decide 6 months into it that the Wall Street Journal kind of sucks and it's not really your cup of tea anymore. You're kind of like stuck with it.
maybe that's a future app, like a marketplace for subscriptions. At this point, you cannot do that. You pay upfront for theathletic.com for an entire year. And at
Right,
the end of
exactly. That sucks though, right? Like that's what I mean. That sucks to pay up front for a year for something that you're not even sure if you enjoy yet.
yeah. Well, you get the 7-day trial, but even then, that's kind of like so one way that I would manage this, like at cryptographic.asset.com, I put up content, but you have to sign up for it. It's free. You just have to give me your email pretty much, and
That's not free. Email is currency because data is value.
sure. So you have to give, so you pay me with your email. But the way I want to temper that is I want to create great content, not only at cryptographic.asset.com on under that brand, but also on medium.com. I want to report as a journalist on Twitter as well. Um, and just like what we were discussing earlier across all these platforms. So like if I were a New York Times or a Wall Street Journal or an Athletic, I would be paying people to create great content for free on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
on Medium.
Why isn't the Wall Street Journal using Steemit, right? Like, from your perspective, why don't we see Wall Street Journal just copy paste their articles and just post them on the Steemit blockchain for an outside source of revenue? Their advertisers would probably love that.
Yeah, I mean it's not copy and pasting content they're already creating, just
Yep,
creating some other creating content specifically for Steemit. That's something else I think that's important with all these different platforms is that they all have their own cadence, their own community. So where you can go maybe crazy on Twitter, it might not be as well received on LinkedIn. But
that's
if
true.
if I had a subscription, well, what I want to do is create content at cryptographic.asset.com, but also create as much content as possible on Medium, for example, like I said, and make it as good as possible, but free. Um, in order to like, well, I just think it's necessary. I think that's where we're heading. You got to be in more places than one. If I were the CEO of New York Times, if not Steam It, I would have a Medium account and we would be publishing long form, great content on Medium.
Well, I
And we
wonder what it took to get them on the Facebook and Twitter, and what it will take to get them on the Steemit, and how we could reproduce that incentive. Because there was a reason that these companies decided to make a Twitter and Facebook account. Was it like we saw this early on these social platforms? Mainstream media had follow us on Twitter and Facebook in their bottom right corners. Was that self interest or was that monetized interest? Were they paid by Facebook to have a Facebook page, or were they self incentivized? Hey, there's some end users on Facebook. We should have a Facebook page. Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
I feel like it's the latter. I think that once these platforms get to a certain point and their hands are forced to start a Twitter page, for instance, But I would argue that they might be even using Twitter wrong. I think if we went to the New York Times Twitter page right now, they're always linking back to NewYorkTimes.com. They should be reporting on Twitter. They should be doing the stuff we were discussing earlier and engaging and treating it as an outlet for news. I think a lot of reporters have a lot of success actually. Like, let's take baseball, for example. The hot stove is going on right now. Let's say a big trade is happening in baseball. The reporters don't write an article about this trade that just was conducted. They go to Twitter, tweet about it, and that's how they get the news out there first. So I think that moving forward, these social media platforms will be used less for linking back to our .coms and more for providing value to the end user on that platform, just for the sake of providing value to the end user on those
I
platforms.
know social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter have a means for bigger platforms to monetize their channel similar to their website. So that you're right, that incentive is coming. Like I know if I was a bigger person on Twitter, I think I have to have at least 20,000 followers or something like that, and you can qualify by that to apply for monetized tweets. So then when you're so now you have less reason to say go to my website so I can monetize that click funnel. Just clicking on my tweet was monetized itself, but it's just starting, I think, to really come out, and we're starting to see that more. Where like you'll see these ads on prominent Twitter feeds because they're getting paid for you to see the ads while you're on their feeds.
I wouldn't be surprised if Facebook and Twitter, as soon as you put a link into a post, that the algorithm kind of um, shows that to less people. Whereas
Mm,
if you create a long form Facebook post with a cool native photo, it's probably Facebook's incentivized to show that to more
that's
people.
true because they don't want them to leave the platform. You're right. Yeah,
Mhm.
so YouTube was big on that. That's like one of the things I think Omar Ban mentioned that was an issue with the content creators and crypto on YouTube was there was a lot of links in the description box that would actually incentivize people to leave YouTube and go somewhere else and buy things and do things outside of the Google ecosystem. They didn't like having all those external links to distract people from leaving their platform.
Yeah, I think it would make sense. That's where journalism could be heading, is that the subscription model could work, especially as the microtransaction payment methods become far more efficient, much more like the App Store today. And these platforms, these journalists, these publishers will have to then use these alternative platforms to create reports and to actually use them as a report. Instead of throwing up a 400 word piece on nyt.com, maybe they create a tweet storm out of that, or maybe they write a
Right.
LinkedIn article.
Yeah, why don't we consider legacy content creators influencers? Why don't they get the same fucking like torch up their ass that content creators get in other industries? When you see an anchor on CNN or a host of like Larry King or John Oliver, they have influential power, but they're just considered content creators, so they're not held to the same standard as an influencer. But if you create content in a specific industry, at some point you get branded an influencer.
I think this is where we have a great opportunity. I don't think they get it yet. I don't think this is only 10 years. We're only 10 years into social media. Like I said, 10 years ago, Facebook was for college kids. Twitter barely existed. I just don't think they quite get it yet. So they're still worried about creating 30-second ads for television or creating full page ads in the New York Times. They don't understand that they can, create a sponsored tweet. It should say that it's sponsored, of course, but that would be an alternative revenue stream. And I
Yeah, that's the
think
difference
uh,
between individual and institutional too. Like I don't feel like independent content creators should or will be putting much of we're sponsored when they create content as much as like an institutional platform that puts out information is held to a standard of expectation of saying when things are sponsored or not. If you're an independent content creator and you work for yourself by yourself, I don't feel like that sponsored brand at the bottom of content is expected, or it should be there as much as it is when you're an institution.
mhm. And Facebook or Instagram could be used by the New York Times to report, do photojournalism, and then they maybe make
Oof.
a story saying, "Hey, check out the new K Swiss, or this is a New York Times reporter, whomever, uh, buy these K Swiss," and they could just create an Instagram story like that. I
That
don't
would be
think they're.
interesting, but yeah, you can't put a link in an Instagram post at all. So there is zero way to get a click funnel from Instagram, which is like I don't understand how Instagram has a market value that it does when you look at the use case of it. But like they're monetizing it in an amazing way somehow, but it's not by being able to put a link in anything.
It'll be that hung up. I think a lot of people in the beginning, a lot of brands didn't want to get on Instagram in the beginning because they couldn't put a link in it. But then they missed the opportunity to build their communities before the algorithm changed to push everyone towards paid media. So, I mean, it's kind of a give and take. I used to like not want to create content for Twitter, for Facebook, because I thought, why would I create content for Zuckerberg or Dorsey when they're not paying me? But then I had the revelation or the epiphany that they're providing me with the audience, and that's the payment that they're offering.
Right? Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that like if everybody is a content creator, everybody, you if you're watching this, you're a content creator. Even if you just share this live stream on Twitter, you're a content creator. You're curating content, but you're also creating the curation of the content. And there's ways to monetize that. And how many people have like you mentioned TikTok. These high school kids are getting millions of followers on TikTok, and they have yet to understand the power behind it and the ability to influence and monetize their influence with these platforms. It's just starting with esports and streaming right now that a lot of kids aren't really planning to go to college to play football. They're planning to go to college to play Fortnite. And we're seeing where the demographics goals are changing due to technology.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a 40-year-old man 20 years ago playing video games, you're not successful. But today you could be a 40-year-old man playing video games and a multimillionaire because of that.
Facts. I actually follow a few boomer gamers that have a decent fan base, and it's actually because they're an older gamer. It's like there's tons of young gamers. Everybody's a young gamer, but you end up finding a 40-year-old guy who's been gaming since Nintendo first came out, and he's kicking ass in Call of Duty. You have a pretty niche opportunity as a content creator goes because the people creating the content in your industry are at a disadvantage of age group. They're all 20 years or younger, right? So it's all pretty much the same copy paste content. Now you can offer something different. And I think that goes for everything, like with crypto especially. Like a lot, like you're a journalist. Other people may be a developer or a graphic designer or a sound engineer. All of those people and more have an opportunity to contribute and do something in this industry.
Yeah, and I think that's really a important take home point is that we should all want to go on record more, doing the things that we love and saying the things that we think, because that's a form of, if you're driven by it, equity, but it also is an opportunity to express yourself. And I think that we underestimate how powerful it is, this new world in which we're all able to express ourselves in the ways that we are. Fast forward 10 or rewind 10 years ago, and we none of us had audiences, and now the world is our audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and God bless emojis, man. Like, I mean, just the way we conversate now is so evolved. And it's almost like a digression of evolution when it comes to like vernaculars and caricatures of language, because we're going back to like hieroglyphs, but it's also a very personal interpretation of it too. When I say something or write a sentence and you read it, you're not interpreting it usually the way that I meant it. When with emojis, it's a more personal interpretation and less of a forced interpretation. And I think that that's interesting when we see content creators and social media come together to be used outside the norm of like, here's a 140 word character tweet, or here's a GIF that I just made, or a meme. Like the power behind memes, whew, who saw that? Nobody. That was like a way of communication that nobody, like it's visual artistic sarcasm. And like we didn't have this before, and now we see people having full on conversations for days by only using emojis and memes.
Hmm. And a lot of people will say that's bad, but these are just tools, and the tool depends on how we use them to either be good or bad. I think you can
Mm-hmm.
use a knife to cut some vegetables, or you can use a knife to take another man's life. You can use emojis to supplement the way in which you communicate, or you can use it to dumb down your communication methods. But I think that we'll see you. The opportunity is there to convey your thoughts in a more rich and compelling manner with these emojis. Or when you're on the bus and you're scrolling through your telephone, are you just consuming content, or are you using it to interact and put yourself out there and communicate with the world? These are two completely separate different uses. So
Right.
it's these are just tools and how we use them, which
Dude,
we
that's so interesting. You know, like there's people that post. You know, you'll see. This is a great set. Like you see people at the restaurants take a picture of their food and just post it on Facebook, right? And then you see this. You know, people that do the same thing, but they'll write a very enriched detail and write a review on Yelp with that picture, and do something different with the content. You know, either you're creating or consuming, but you can create and it be almost fruitless, but you could also create in the same way on a different platform and it'd be fruitful. You know, taking that picture of your dinner and putting it on Facebook doesn't matter, but if you were to do that and put it on Yelp and write a review, like one of my sponsors, Bravo Coin, basically monetized and incentivized reviewing. So every time I go to a restaurant, I do that. I take a picture of my food, I post it on Facebook, but now I can monetize that. I'm incentivized to take that photo and put it on another platform and just, hey, this food was really good, tastes great, blah blah blah, and done. And now I can earn from that rather than I get nothing from Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where this is gonna move. And for those of you who don't know that, like Bravo Coins, like Yelp, except you earn tokens for your reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And then tokens, I mean, we're in the United States, we're extremely wealthy compared to a lot of the world. But for parts of the world, these tokens are like the difference between surviving and not, perhaps.
Yeah. That whole take a penny, leave a penny mentality of first world nations is it's very clouded. Like you have enough money to just leave your spare change in a jar for somebody else. Like, wow, must be nice. Some people don't have the opportunity to just say, oh, I don't feel like carrying the change in my pocket. I don't like the noise it makes. That's the change that could change their lives. So, and we've seen that happen in places like Venezuela and platforms like Steemit, really taking off because, yeah, they may only make $1 or $2 USD per Steemit post, but that's a week's income for them in their currency.
Yep. I think I hear all the time, blockchain has no use cases, but it's because those people are so uh, fixated on really their country,
Right.
their standard of living, that they're missing out all these stories that are happening in what's quote historically been called the periphery of Western
Dude, the
civilization. So
biggest
here.
misinvestment opportunity that has ever happened in the history of rich people or very privileged people not seeing the utility behind a tool created for the everyday person was Ring Doorbell. Ring Doorbell on Shark Tank got shit on. Amazon went and bought it for like 100 times the evaluation any shark gave it. And I mean, I saw 100% use case for the doorbell that I could Skype call when I'm not home. But of course, a billionaire in a very privileged environment who never had to answer a door in his life doesn't see the use case for this. And when you have a first world nation as Visa and banking that works, they don't see a use case for this crypto thing. And then just because you can't utilize it doesn't mean other people cannot. And there's a difference between opportunistic investing and sort of like a forced investment. People in Venezuela were forced into crypto. In America, you have the opportunity to invest in what other people are forced into using, and that's your opportunity. Your use case is to speculate because you have no other use case. You're privileged. Congrats. But that doesn't
That
mean
was
it's useless.
We see that in how much emphasis there is on the price in the United States. Everybody's all obsessed with price. I was told today that like the crypto prices are like not moving up, but that's a very narrow-minded perspective because they are changing people's lives in a very real way. And I think the price is secondary, but also furthermore, when you look at the macro, like the prices, Bitcoin was the best investment of the last 10 years. When you mention your doorbell thing, it sounds like a great use case for a business who is at lunch, or maybe in some countries where they're on siesta at
Oh,
lunch.
fuck Barcelona. You had to mention siestas. Dude, I was in Barcelona and I couldn't eat lunch ever because they go on siesta every day at lunchtime.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I see that it's funny that, value is subjective, I think. And
Yep.
also, it goes to say that if you get rejected, like it's not the end of the world. Like you got to keep trying. In fact,
Uber, bro, biggest story of keep trying. How many people shot down Uber as an investment opportunity, bro?
mhm.
So
Yeah,
dumb.
there was a publication in this crypto space for a hot minute called the Breaker Mag, and then they made a. I don't really know anything about them or the people behind it, but they made a big post about how like there wasn't like a way for them to make money and all this stuff, so they had to shutter. They were in business for like less than a year. Like it takes it takes a decade to build a business in many
Yeah,
cases.
look
Like
at Red Bull. Red Bull was around forever before it became like pretty popular. People like thought it came out of nowhere, but Red Bull's been around forever. And they just started marketing differently and got a different marketing campaign manager and decided to do something different, and it worked for them. But that's really what it comes down to is like brand awareness as well. A lot of these projects don't know how to market themselves or get their themselves known, and you could have the best tool in the toolbox, but if no one knows you're there, buried underneath all this shit that's shouting and hollering about their vaporware, no one's going to be able to see how awesome you actually are.
now, a lot of people they'll make like a few posts on Twitter or whatever, and they won't get any likes, so then they're done with it. They're like, "Oh,
Yep.
this isn't working." So tell me, like, how many views did your first video get after you uploaded it in crypto?
Right, not many at all, man, and it actually went up and back down. You could look on on YouTube, but like started in 2015 16 with like no views. 2017 I started to get like tens of thousands of views, and some of my videos got hundred thousands of views, and then I got in trouble on YouTube. They banned my YouTube channel for like a year, and then I got it back, but because of that being shadow banned. I don't get as many viewers anymore, and I think it's because of the content, the topic of conversation, and the fact that I already have 2 YouTube strikes doesn't really help with getting my content seen by people on like the related threads or anything like that on YouTube. So it's been a weird up and down transition, but everything's even like on Twitter. I didn't have any followers on Twitter when I first started engaging and stuff, but it adds up, and the more you contribute, the more engagement you get, the more engagement you give. So if you're making a video and you're only getting like 10 views, keep doing it, because those 10 people will share it. And the whole thing, like right now with the grassroots, slow and steady is the key. You don't want to grow too big too fast anyway, because it's hard to keep up with. Creating content and stuff. It's definitely it's a different type of work for sure. Like I rather do manual labor than do content creation sometimes, because of how much mental stress it can be. But when you're just starting and just doing it, don't put too much pressure or professionalism into it. Just do it and get more professionalism and add more quality as you gain more viewerships and more engagement. But if you start at giving it your 110% day one, you might be discouraged and kind of fizzle out before you actually get the opportunity to take off in your niche. So give it as much energy and effort as it's giving back, I think, and you don't feel so investing money into Bitcoin, right? You don't put any more money into Bitcoin than you can afford to lose. Don't put any more time and effort into your content than you can afford to lose, is how I kind of like looked at it at first. And as I got more and more followers, and I got sponsor opportunities and things like that, then I started to add more time and more quality to my content. And I feel like I'm at a perfect balance of like how much I give and how much I get from it, and I don't feel like I don't get enough views, I'm quitting this or anything like that. But I feel like people do get burnt out coming into content creation with expectations. I didn't have that. I didn't expect or even want 1,000 subscribers on YouTube or 100 followers on Twitter. It just started to happen. But you do see people that intentionally do go into it, and because they're trying so hard, it comes off very disingenuous, and you won't get that organic engagement that you would get if you were just being yourself. If you are like myself, sort of very unprofessional, then just be yourself. Be that unprofessional you in your niche industry of content creation. Don't try to pretend to be somebody you're not, because then you have to whip up a character every time you create content. And I don't know how some people do it. I hang out with a lot of people that create content in this space, and they're two different people on and off film, and I'm like, holy shit, bro, you should work in Hollywood. I don't know how you do it.
This is gonna be easier to suss out over time. Like we're animals as people. Like we can tell when somebody's being disingenuous, and that's why I think it's so important for us to be genuine on these platforms. So like if you're at home thinking about starting to create content and you don't know what to do or how to do it, it's just be yourself. Have
Hmm.
confidence. Like don't care what other people think about like
I
what you're doing.
started by making videos walking to work every day. That was my first interaction with YouTube videos. Really, was like I started with a video of me walking out my front door, talking about a topic that I just read an article about crypto, and I walked through the front door of my job and I turned off the camera, and that's what I did for almost a year. And it was just like, I'm already going. And people you can do this if you're driving to work or shopping in the
Yeah.
supermarket. Just open your phone and talk for 5 to 10 minutes about something that's on your mind and post it. You don't have to be an investigative journalist to create content. You don't have to have all this intellectual information that people expect you to have in your content at first. Just say what you know, say what you feel, and just see where your content goes from there. Maybe you want to add more information, so you could deep dive more into topics before you talk about them. But when you start creating content at first, I wouldn't try to give your audience a level of expectation that you can't sustain.
Hmm. Yeah. I think if you just action comes before strategy. So if you just create the content, you're going to learn over time how to create better content just by virtue of doing it and keeping to a schedule or just doing it regularly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like right now, if you wanted to create content, you don't have any ideas. You could create a summary of what you just listened to on my podcast, and people do like movie reviews and toy reviews. You could do podcast reviews or whatever. Like, it is a
Yeah.
limitless industry when you think of content creation, and people will say like markets are flooded, and I always joke about Bitcoin podcast being in a bubble because I feel like the term bubble is thrown around very loosely, so I think it's funny. But there isn't enough independent content creation for anything. Period. I don't care if there's 10,000 people streaming Fortnite. Doesn't matter. There's 10 million people watching it. So you could be the 10,001 person streaming Fortnite on Twitch, but you still have an opportunity to do almost anything. You can't say, oh, I want to do a podcast about sports, but there's not enough. There's not enough content for anything. Period. If you enjoy that kind of content, then create it.
And there's no one doing it like you. And
Exactly.
there's no one doing it like you. And probably most of the people creating aren't going to be able to sustain it. They're going to one day stop recording the podcast. But if you're the one that keeps on doing it, then at the end of the day, in 10 years, you'll be on top of the mountain.
That's a really good point, and I feel like that has happened in the community. You can see that in crypto, especially. A lot of content creators disappeared during the bear market. They may be reemerging, but they lost a lot of their clout, reputation, and credibility. And there's people that have been in this space, not so much as content creators, but just as content consumers. But they're just starting to get into content creation, and they have the legacy of being in the space for X amount of time, so that comes with some clout and reputation. So it's interesting to see the opportunity for new content creators to come into this industry because of the legacy ones fizzling out. They burnt themselves out, or they've hurt their reputation by promoting things that have inevitably scammed or lost people lots of money. So if anybody feels like oh, there's already too many Bitcoin podcasts, like no, there's not, because even the ones that exist, half of them are very uncredible. I want to say incredible, uncredible, and unreliable because of their legacy of information that you can see. Hey, they this podcast said that York Malt is the co-founder of Bitcoin a year ago. That may hurt their reputation forever now because that. So just keep that in mind. Like you said, no one's doing it like you. So just do you, and do it publicly. People use social media as a very personal tool, and I get that, but you can still use it as a personal tool and monetize it as well. So I don't want to sound like a greedy, money hungry person when I keep bringing up monetization, but the platforms that you're using monetize you already. You have to figure out what they're doing with your content and how to do what they're doing with it yourself, for yourself. Like we say, be your own bank. be your own provider of content creation too. Like if YouTube and Facebook and Twitter are out there making millions of dollars a year and you're using their social platforms, you could find a way to make a couple dollars a year with them.
And if you're not creating on those platforms, then you're being taken. They're making money off you, and you're not doing anything for yourself.
No, if they have an account on the platform, they're like I said, everybody's already a content creator. You're either creating content for yourself or for the platform you're on. Like that photo you post of your food for Facebook only helped Facebook, but if you took that and put it on Yelp, it would help you. Or Bravo Coin, it would really help you. It's like different levels of platforms, then different levels of content, and different ways to use that to monetize it or not. But even if you're just posting a tweet a day to talk about the shitty weather, there's a way to monetize that.
Yeah, yeah, but it's got to be a tweet a day.
Yeah, you got to be consistent. That's the thing with content, right? You got to be consistent. That's why I try to do the podcast daily.
You're doing a great job, Ken.
Do you have any other questions, man? I'm like totally down for this.
No, I think we've covered everything. I think the take-home point is that you got to create content regularly and you got to be genuine. And that I think we should all go on record and start being ourselves more.
And if I could give anybody any advice, if I could go back in time and give me advice about content creation, I probably would have told myself not to use my real name. There's a public and being known there's a difference between anonymity and synonymity. You can be a synonymous content creator. You can put your face on the video and your voice on the video, maybe not your real name on the fucking video would probably be a good idea. I've been hacked, I've been threatened, and a lot of that comes from just too much personal information being provided, right? So you don't have to, some people don't even want to put their face on camera, so just don't use that. Just use your audio and use an overlay or a graphic or even a black screen. It doesn't matter, create your content, but just keep in mind at some point in time, you could be considered a honeypot in any industry. You're either creating I'm sure Ninja worries about, getting harassed for money in public situations because he's a pretty popular gamer that has lots of money that people assume he has lots. Maybe he's worried that if you know where he lives, you're going to, egg his house until you pay the ransom or something, whatever the case may be. So if you're out there creating content about crypto especially, just realize, when I first got into it, I had a couple $100 worth of Bitcoin and Bitcoin went up to 20K. People started to assume a lot of shit. So if you start making content today and Bitcoin goes up to fucking $1 million, the amount of information you put behind your content could, create a honeypot liability.
Yeah, I think Gary Vaynerchuk always says that he's the most public private person. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that.
Yeah, I like a lot of what Gary Vee does. I'm kind of with Joe Rogan on the side that Gary does too damn much content, and I didn't even think that was possible on the internet in this day and age. But for an independent content creator, he does make way too much content. I can't even keep up with Gary.
Yeah, I think that's the point.
You're right. That probably is the point, right? And I mean, from Wine Library to where he's at today, I mean, he's kind of like a proof of what he says. He's not saying anything that he hasn't already lived through himself. But it is hard that every one of my friends who's kind of a half-ass idiot thinks they can be a CEO of a X idea they had when they got high because they listened to a Gary Vaynerchuk inspirational video. Is like, you might be over-inspired. Slow down the inspiration, but I like that people are getting inspired by people like him for sure.
And then once they have that idea, step 2 is to go and grovel at the feet of VCs instead of really trying to understand the product and the niche that they're trying to serve. Go back if you're thinking about creating content and watch the very first Wine Library episode, which is where Gary Vaynerchuk started. I mean, he's talking about how they got this new camera and how great the quality is. And 15 years later, the camera quality is terrible. We have better cameras on our phones now.
That's a good point. It is a really good point. The cost of startup for content creation has gone down drastically. You see a lot of content creators, posting their setup kits and all this where it's like thousands of dollars worth of stuff, and I'm like, you could get a used iPhone 4 for $50 and create content. Like, I don't think you need all this fancy equipment. And a lot of content creators, the fancier the equipment, the higher the quality of the crap they use, the lower quality of the actual content you get out of them.
Yeah, I think this goes back to just quantity is over quality. Although I guess in some people's opinions, like Rogan, there can be too much. But again, I think that the point is that a lot of brands, I think, they get hung up on their image and they get bogged down in quality. It takes them 8 hours to
You
figure
know,
out what
you know how
color
many
they want. Like,
people in this space I know worry about their image? It's embarrassing. Like, it's weird. Like, I'll post whatever because I'm me, but because these people are a brand, like, some content creators specifically want to be a brand. They strive for it, and they don't want to be themselves because themselves aren't brandable. Like, they know this. That's why they create the character and they create the brand and they stay within that creation. And dude, I don't understand it. I mean, like, I get it, but like, I don't understand it. I could never participate and do that myself. I see the potential in it. I see the reasoning for it, but like, I don't think that it's something I would recommend people to do. Start like a Twitter page of a character and a voice that isn't really your own and try to keep that up.
yeah, that's why it's so important to double down on like what you're good at. I write a lot. I think I'm comfortable in that space, so I double down on writing. If you take photos, the space needs photographers. I mean, there's so much content to photograph, especially at the conferences.
Yes.
And these conferences want you there to be taking photos of them. If you're good at ranting, the space needs people ranting. If you're good at drawing, the people, I mean, look at Shapeshift right now. Shapeshift is making the best artwork in the game. I don't know who's doing it, but it's so awesome. And the space needs more stuff like that. Graphic designers. Um, if you're not, there, the options are unlimited in terms of like what kind of content there is to make. And this space and any industry needs that content.
Yep, and Amina in the chat, I see you. She said we missed Andreas and Ben's meetup, and big shout out to Bitcoin Ben, man. I remember, he was hesitant to start creating content, and I had to beg him, and I finally got Bitcoin Ben on my podcast a while ago now, and he's been creating content and just thriving, hosting meetups all around the world, getting on stage at conferences, and all from being a consumer of content to me nudging them into being a creator of content. And big shout out to them. Coin flip interview in 15 minutes. Yeah, guys, I know I'm gonna wrap it up. Amina, I'm definitely gonna be there for that. So if you're watching this live stream, check out Amina's live stream interview with Coin Flip in 15 minutes. I'll be in the chat. Let's see. Anything else that I have on here? No. So Justin, did you want to anything to wrap up? Let people know where you are and where to find you and stuff.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say that like Bitcoin Ben, his audience is people related to him, and the same people that relate to him, they might not like me at all. I
Same with
want,
me.
right? So I mean, we all have people that relate to us, and I think your
There is
individual,
an audience for everybody.
yeah. And then other than that, you can find me at cryptographic.asset.com, at Change Output, and most on LinkedIn, on Twitter, wherever you want, and I'll reply. But I'll definitely jump into this comment in this video too, and answer any questions.
All right, guys, definitely check it out and reach out to him on changeoutput.com. And yeah, just whatever you end up making out of this, make sure you tag me on Twitter and I'll post out your content.
Yeah, I'm working on a Forbes.com article on content creation and for my contributor site, and
Oh
I'll
shit,
post
I'm gonna be in Forbes.
on my contributor site. Yeah, yes, sir.
Word. That's the second time I'd be mentioned in Forbes in 2 years. That's exciting.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to getting that done and putting it out there.
Fuck, dude, that's awesome. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. That's
I
it's
appreciate
really
you.
exciting. Actually, I know my grandmom's gonna. She reads it, so I'm sure she's gonna be able to. She's gonna see it probably before I do. She reads all that like Wall Street Journal type stuff. That's her cup of tea.
Excellent. Well, I'll get to it right away.
All right, Justin. All right, guys, we're out of here. Amina, I'll be in your chat in a minute. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We had Justin O'Connell of changeoutput.com, and we were talking from content creator to influencer. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any comments to add to the live stream, of course, the comments section are open to you. So, as always, have a day.
Thank you, everyone.
Shout out to the sponsors of the podcast, monarchtoken.io, the complete crypto solution. Monarch Wallet is now available for Android, iOS, and desktop devices today. Do you want to learn how to mine crypto? Well, all you have to do is visit cryptomining.tools for profitable crypto mining information today. The Divi Project, that is diviproject.org, your one-click solution for staking and masternodes. Earn cryptocurrency using social media platforms like SOME.social, SOMEE.social, New Era Social Media. Get paid to write reviews, like reviews, comment on reviews. Visit bravocoin.com and get paid to review. Available for Android and iOS devices. bravocoin.com. CoinFlip, the world's best Bitcoin ATM. Better service, better fees. Better visit coinflip.tech today. Shout out to the sponsors of the podcast, monarchtoken.io, the complete crypto solution. Monarch Wallet is now available for Android, iOS, and desktop devices today. Do you want to learn how to mine crypto? Well, all you have to do is visit cryptomining.tools for profitable crypto mining information today. The Divi Project, that is diviproject.org, your one-click solution for staking and masternodes. Earn cryptocurrency using social media platforms like SOME.social, SOMEE.social, New Era Social Media. Get paid to write reviews, like reviews, comment on reviews. Visit bravocoin.com and get paid to review. Available for Android and iOS devices. bravocoin.com. CoinFlip, the world's best Bitcoin ATM. Better service, better fees. Better visit coinflip.tech today. Shout out to the sponsor.